There is one follower of Andreasen. He is still alive, and he is the most vocal voice of perfectionist movement today in our church. His name is Dr. Herbert Douglas. He is a very fine theologian. He writes very often for Ministry magazine. He wrote a good book on Ellen White, The Messenger of the Lord, the best we have. A few years ago, he came to Newell College, and he was, for the whole week, in Ellen White Research Center. I took him to my classes. And maybe there are several students here, maybe some of you remember him coming to the class. And I'll summarize to you his position. Dr. Herbert Douglas drew on the board. How are we saved? According to Herbert Douglas, we are saved by faith and works. Works. And it is Catholic or Wesleyan position, if you want. Dr. Herbert Douglas was repeating to the students the following sentence, which looks extremely attractive. He said, and he would raise his voice a little bit, and he said, God would never receive to heaven forgiven rebels. It seemed to him, if we say we are saved by faith alone, it seemed to him that you are still a rebel, but you are a forgiven rebel. As long as we are in this body, according to perfectionist understanding, it is possible to go through the process of eradication of sin. Now, here. And what eradication means? It means to get rid, not only of the power of sin, but of every sin. This is the position of, I just summarized the position of the perfectionist. If you want to get to heaven, you better become sinless in all the dimensions. Now you can dissect it and say what it means. What is the position mainstream of the Adventist Church? Now this is, and then I'll come to in order to explain. I think this is existentially important. Existentially important. So we believe that as long as we live in this body, some kind of sin will be there in ourselves. Let me remind you of Moses, who was talking in Genesis when he was describing sin. He said that sin is like a lion hiding in the bushes and waiting for the prey to... So sin is ready to jump out of the prey and So the sin will be there, hidden in ourselves, ready to jump on its prey. Now the following question is, are we preaching the theology of failure, that we cannot do anything about this? We believe that by the power of the Holy Spirit, we can keep this power of sin subdued. I think Dr. Barnum was using another word, suppressed. Both words are good. Suppressed or subdued. One more time. By the power of the Holy Spirit, we can keep the power of sin under control. But it is not going to be eradicated as long as we are in this body. Only when we receive the new body, we had the text there from 1 Corinthians 15, then sin will be eradicated. So this is the position of our church. So if you ask me, is there growth, spiritual growth? Yes, there is. You remember, you have seen so many times theologians drawing this. Yes, I think we are growing. We are not the same. But the new birth experience, we do not believe that experience is once for For this is something that we have to go every day again through that experience. Are you with me? If ever it seems to me there was a man who tried to go through the process of eradication, it was Martin Luther. But you know all his experience. Somehow he realized he was fasting, he was going to Rome, he was even whipping him, doing all kind of things. But there was one word that he was afraid even to see and to read in his Latin Bible. Justitia Dei, which means the righteousness of God. So whenever Luther used Latin Bible, Vulgata, whenever he would see that word, Justitia Dei, he would tremble. So we'll all come one day in front of God. How we will feel when we come in front of God. And when Luther would read Justitia Dei, he was deeply upset. And then he began teaching from the book of Psalms. Let's read what he found in the book of Psalms. He found the following thing. In you, O Lord, I have taken refuge. Let me never be put to shame. Deliver me in your... Does it make sense to you? It was written by David. And David says, Lord, deliver me in what? In your Justitia Dei. But do you know what righteousness of God serves for? It serves like a fire to burn us, to destroy us, to destroy our sinfulness. And then Luther was thinking, maybe David did not know how sin is sinful. Maybe he didn't know what he was talking about. And you know who was David? The murderer, the adulterer, the liar. And then he says, Lord, deliver me in your righteousness. Luther says something must be wrong here. Does it make any sense? Let's go then to Romans. After the book of Psalms, David taught from the book of Romans. Romans 1, verse 16 and 17, which says, I am not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God. And then verse 17, for in the gospel a righteousness from God is revealed. What is revealed in the gospel? But what is gospel? Good news about what? About Christ. But what is in that good news? Justitia Dei. And then comes the key verse where we discover what that righteousness is. Romans 3:21. The text says, but now a righteousness from God, apart from law, has been made known. What kind of righteousness is that? Yeah, it is not righteousness which comes through the keeping of the law. It is not the righteousness which comes through the doing good deeds. It is some other righteousness. That's why David could pray, Lord, come to my rescue. And let's read the key verse 28 in chapter 3. For we maintain that a man is justified by faith apart from observing the law. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 21. God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we may become the righteousness of God. In whom we can become righteousness? Now, let me come you to the Therefore, be perfect as your... Will we be perfect as God? Yes. Why we will be perfect like God? Because of the righteousness of God, Christ himself. Of course, what does it mean? It means we are today as we are. Let's be honest, I believe that all human good deeds are permeated with selfishness. All good. You know that Luther prayed for forgiveness, even for the good deeds. So we are in many ways still sinful. We are growing spiritually. But at the same time, we are just because of the righteousness of Christ. I think when it comes to that question, how are we saved? I firmly believe that if we are enlightened by the Holy Spirit, we'll do everything we can to follow Christ. And I think there is a spiritual growth. But in the final analysis, what is necessary is, by faith, to trust in God. That's why I believe that we are saved by faith alone. But the Bible is full of good works. Even Romans and Galatians, what are we are going to do with the good works? I found the following theological solution. Good works cannot be the cause of our salvation, but the good works are the consequence of our salvation, of being saved. There is one European theologian, one of the best that we had, by the name of Jean Zucher, from Switzerland, and he said something like this: although it is true that we are not going to be saved through or by good works, it is also true that we are not going to be saved without good works. But the good works can never be the cause of our salvation. But the good works should be and must be the consequence of salvation. But when it comes to be saved, I think we are saved by faith alone. Just come to the Lord and say, Lord, here I am. Accept me. I want to be with you. I think it is enough if we are sincere. Otherwise, we are all going to be lost, according to my understanding of the Bible. May God help us.